Hey y'all, it's Becky. I'm here in my studio in Berea. If you ever find yourself in the Artisan Village, come say hi. I thought I would make a reference video for you in case you needed to rewatch any parts of the process of the wire wrapped bracelet or the pendant. But if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, email me, whatever. I'm happy to help. So I'm gonna switch the camera over to my hands now and let's get into it. Hey everyone, so I wanted to start with the bracelet. So of course you should have some beads. You should have 15 beads. Each bead is going to account for about ½ an inch. So I planned for like an average size bracelet, but if you know that you have a smaller wrist or you want to make yours smaller, just leave out, 1 or 2 beads. You've got these are round nose pliers, and then these are flat nose. And I have snips. You guys don't have those, but you can use scissors to cut the wire. This is a thin gauge wire, so we should be good. You have 2 pieces of wire for the bracelet. One is round and one is square. So that may be hard to tell, but just look up close. So the first thing we're gonna do is take our square piece of wire. And you wanna take both pairs of pliers. So in one hand, you'll grab that, and then in the other hand, the reason I got you 1 piece of square wire is so that we could twist, because it looks pretty that way. So what you're gonna do is just twist, twist, and then move down a little and do the same thing.
You can see what the light's hitting right now, that it's twisted. This will also help us to make the tutorial easier when I'm talking about which wire. So you can get out this whole piece of wire. My wire keeps dancing around because it would be better to do this with 2 flat nose pairs, but we're working with what we got. And you can do this as tight or as loose as you want, so this is really just a taste thing. It does not have to be perfect. None of this has to be perfect, so please don't stress yourself out.
We're going to set that down for a second. I've got it over here. Now take your round wire and fold it in half. So I've got this folded in half, just like this, and then you're going to take your flat nose pliers and squeeze. We're making the clasp. See how I've got that together now? And then you're going to take your round nose pliers and make a little lip. Just a little bit. So turn it up just a little bit like that. Then you're still with your round nose pliers. You'll go up, I guess just a little bit, and about halfway on your round nose pliers. Halfway meaning, that's what I mean by that. So you can kind of gauge the size of the curve that you're making, and just wrap that around. Okay, sorry if you can hear my wires during this. So now we've got our clasp, and you need to take your square twisted wire now and fold it in half, just like we did that one. Straighten this out a little. We can hook it on just like that. So right below the clasp, so like right here, you're gonna make one wrap around. So. And we can take our flat nose pliers and kind of, first of all, pull that as tight as you can. And then we will squeeze it to keep it in place with our pliers. I guess I pulled that pretty tight in the first place, it feels like. Okay. So sorry you can hear these wires hitting my camera. Okay, so this is what we've got here. And we are going to pull these two center ones apart, the round ones, just like that. And then put our twisted wire over just like this. So you've got something that looks like this. So now the twisted wires are on the inside and these are on the outside. So this is what we got. And then you're gonna take one of your beads and you wanna lace these two through that bead. And this part's gonna be repetitive. I'm gonna take my pliers and squeeze up here a little so that it's easier for me to get that hooked on. Okay, so we've got that straightened out. And then I needed to retighten that, and you may have to do that too, that's fine. Squeeze whatever at any point if it feels like you need to. So now we need to separate these wires and put these round ones over top. So they're gonna kind of frame that bead. What you can do is, and you can do this as tight or as loose as you want. So like, if you want these to kind of have a big space around the bead, that's okay, don't do it as tight. But if you want it to be tight, right around the bead, that's fine too. You can take your round nose and go like this, and that way that bead will slide right up to that point. So we'll keep doing this part over and over. If you want to make another one of these, the hardest part is finding beads that will fit 2 pieces of wire through. These are lava beads. thought they were cool. And black goes with everything. So we're doing the same thing again. We're separating those, putting these over top. And now you've got this cool kind of woven looking thing in the center between each bead. Okay. I'm someone who sometimes I have to watch something over and over before I get what's happening, especially with something like this. I know it's hard to see sometimes if you're not in person what exactly I'm doing. So I'm doing the best I can to show you what I'm doing. But that's why I wanted to make this video, so that you guys could rewind it or whatever. Separate those. These over top, you're going over top, whoops. You're going over top the whole time. Now I'm doing mine pretty tight. Pretty tightly around my beads.
I believe lots of these you can put essential oils in, or onto rather, if you're into that kind of thing. Obviously didn't fold that in half exactly. Put these apart. Put these over top.
So now that's my last bead on there. And we'll bend those around the bead like normal. But we're gonna bend each wire around those two center wires and trim them. Happen to have snips like me, it helps because you can get right up on it. And this part doesn't have to be perfect either, just whatever you think looks good. And now I'm gonna wrap this around too. Now I'm gonna use scissors, in case that's what you guys have. Piece of tape on mine. You can get pretty close though. And you can always, the reason I included a file is in case you do want to file some of the edges. You can feel and see how smooth it is. Of course, there are jeweler files, but a lot of jewelers will just, those are nail files, or the ones that I sent you all are just nail files. So you can get different grits of these, and that works just as well. Okay, so now I've got these two wires, and we're gonna bend one of them out of the way. I'm gonna bend my shorter one since I did not measure very well. Straighten this out. And then we need to make a loop for the clasp at the other end. So I'm gonna bend this. This is not the loop part, this is just, I'm bending it up to create a space. And now I'm going about halfway up my round nose pliers. To make the loop. To get it how you want. There we go. That's what I was looking for. The more you bend wire, the harder it is to work with because it work hardens it. So, you know, metal is very malleable when it's heated, and then the more you work harden it, such as bending it, hammering it, whatever, then that's the stiffer it gets. So then after you make the loop, you've got these two ends here. So I'm gonna just, well, I've got my flat nose pliers, and I'm gonna hold my clasp. And I'm just wrapping it around. And honestly, if you didn't have scissors on this end of things, you could just keep wrapping instead of trimming. No big deal. Again, wire wrapping can be as clean or as messy as you want. So take my flat nose pliers and kind of pinch that in. And then this wire, I'm gonna wrap it around too. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. So that one I'm not even gonna trim, I'm just gonna tighten this up. Okay, so again, see, that just looks like kind of not perfect wire wrapping down there. So like I said, you don't even have to trim it if you don't want to. If you've got extra, you can just keep wrapping it around, but scissors work just fine too, as long as you've got all your ends down here wrapped at least once or twice around. I just kind of like the look of having a bunch of wraps. So now you've got basically your finished bracelet. It might naturally curl when you are making it. I tried to flatten mine as I was working, but now you can just kind of bend it. If you have something to bend it around, like a water bottle or something, you can do that if you want. So we're just adjusting. So now you got to figure out, okay, how do I want this to clasp? Because you can adjust it. You can take your pliers or your hands. So like my hook is facing out, but my loop is facing flat towards you guys, so I'm gonna try to get that to where it's see what I mean? Okay, so now we should be good to go. And you can just hook it on. So that's the finished bracelet. But this is wire wrapping is very accessible, so you could go to the craft store and you know, purchase what you needed to make something like this. So they've got wire, beads, all that there. So this is the finished product, and now we can move on to the pendant. Okay, so now we are going to make the pendant. We're gonna make something like this. And you should have a black leather cord in your kit too, so that you can wear it right away. And you should all have a piece of marble. And you have 3 feet of wire, but honestly, you could cut this in half, because sometimes when you're wire wrapping, like, you just get too far into it, and if you realize you've messed up, you might want to start over. So you do have enough in there to do too. So if you don't have scissors, well, if you don't have snips or scissors, I'm going to show you something that you can do. So like I was telling you all about work hardening metal, you can just keep, you know, twisting back and forth, and as you see, that broke in half. And then you could use your file or whatever to make that edge smooth. So just if you're in a pinch, if you don't have scissors or something, you can do that. So now I'm gonna fold this piece of wire in half. And slide this on. So you're gonna just wrap this around, maybe twice, just with your fingers. So I've just got that wrapped around, like, you know, like 1 or 2 times. So then this one, so don't worry about this one for now. This one we're gonna turn into a bail. So I'm gonna take my round nose pliers and go all the way to, you know, towards the back, so that we can have a larger bail. And leave about, I don't know, maybe that much wire. And make that first loop. I want to wrap this around 3 times because it's just gonna make it a sturdier bail. So you can just hold your pliers like this, be careful, but you can hold them open and wrap it around this way, because you can't keep wrapping if they're closed, of course. So now I've got 3 rings. And that one's pointing down, that wire is. So you can tighten this up with your flat nose pliers, make it look a little cleaner. Okay, so now we've got that. And now we're gonna wrap this wire around and around right here. So you can either hold that like this. You can do that a little bit. I kind of like to switch between doing that and what I'm about to show you, because if you keep holding with these, you may squish it in too much. So this, I kind of just slide it back on there and then keep wrapping around. And definitely try to get that first wrap there tight. can just do this till it looks nice. And try to go down towards, try to end at the bottom. So, this is what I've got now. Let me adjust my bail a little bit. So now I've got my bail a little more straightforward. And I'm adjusting these wires. So now you see we have both the wires kind of going in the same direction here. So as you can see, the wire on the left, see how I have them side by side here? The wire on the left, we're gonna twist that way, and then the wire on the right will twist the opposite way. So this one, to start out, you can cut these as short or as long as you want. Of course, the longer your piece is, or the longer piece of wire you have, the larger swirl you're going to have. So I'm going to cut this a little. And this is when you can take your file, and I try to just go on each side. And you can, you know, feel it. It doesn't have to be super, I mean, it's gonna feel a little pokey because of course this is a thinner gauge wire, but you just don't want any burrs, like any little pieces of metal sticking off of the end. So first you are going to take your round nose pliers and make one little loop right at the end. Just like that. Then you take your flat nose ones. And the best way to do this is to keep one finger kind of close over here if you want a tight spiral, which I do. And kind of just keep scooting it. You may have to squeeze it like this in the beginning. Just go nice and slow so you know you're not getting any gaps if you don't want them. So now we're up towards the top. I'm going to keep scooting that right up to the top. See, so we've got that first spiral. And again, like, maybe you want this spiral to be a little bit smaller and this one to be larger. You can, you know, make that happen by keeping this wire longer than your left wire. So I'm gonna do that. I don't want it this long though. And again, this is half of the amount of wire I gave you all, so maybe about right here. So if you mess up or whatever, you're good. You can give it another go. And you don't necessarily, when you're filing like the edges of wire, just in general, you don't want to like go like this. You're trying to round each edge of the wire. So now this, you know, we want it to be spinning this way, outward. So again, we will take our needle nose, or round nose pliers, and we're gonna make one little loop. Okay, so we got this tiny little loop. And as you can see, this time I've got my thumb here pressing against that as we roll it against the wire. And with the flat nose pliers, what this does is it keeps your actual swirl flat while you're rolling. And I am not right up on the stone or anything. So now you've got something like this. You can kind of just play with it to get it to lay how you'd like. Okay, so here's your finished product, and now I'm going to show you how to put it on the cord if you want it on the cord that it came with. So we tried to make this bail as big as we could, but now I want you to try to kind of shove it a little bit down onto the mandrel of the pliers, and that'll just even it up. And then, so this, the bail unfortunately won't fit over this ring, so we gotta take that off real quick. So you're gonna grab it. You need to find the split in it though first. Okay, so we gotta grab it. Where we've got that split accessible. Take your other pair of pliers. And be careful, but try to just bend that apart. Great. I bent that a little too far open, but it'll be all right. And now this, you might have to shove it a little bit, but that's good because then it's not gonna come off this cord. And if you have something else at home that you'd rather put it on, go for it. I'm gonna put it through the other way. Oh no, that's right. Most people use the lobster claw with their right hand, so think about that. So if you're someone who wants to use that with your right hand, make sure it's on the right way. And then you're gonna take your jump ring or your O-ring, whatever you wanna call it, put it back on here. And you could just potentially leave this ring on here if you want it a little shorter, but if you want this extender on here, make sure to put that back on too, so that you have some option in the length. So now I've got both of those on, and we gotta tighten it up. So, and this will be a little harder to work with than the copper because it is steel. Once you're at about that point, sometimes I'll squeeze it very, very gently before you do this. Know that I'm doing it very gently. Squeeze in a little. And this just makes it where the jump ring will be tight. Hear how that clicked? That's what I wanted. But then you might see that one side is still not completely lined up with the other. So you can take this, I've grabbed it right at the split. Grab your other pair of pliers and try to pull those past each other. So I'm trying to push my right hand forward and line these up. Okay, so that's how you get it on your cord. Okay, here's your finished products, guys. I hope that you enjoy wearing your new bracelet and your pendant. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, whether it's regarding these projects or if you ever want to talk about art or business. I'm happy to help with whatever I can. I appreciate you guys having me, and I'll see you later.